when you're dealing with a cold case, whether it's a missing persons case or a homicide case or some other type of grievous crime that happened, years or decades pass by and it's still unsolved, ask yourself this question: who doesn't want this case to be solved? There is someone or a group of people who doesn't want the truth to come out. So that's why the case is unsolved. There is no such thing as something bad happens, nobody knows anything about it. Look, law enforcement in the United States and in many other places, they even go to fortune tellers to assist them in solving crimes. So if they even willing to go to the demonic realm to solve crime, why is it then that there are so many missing persons cases and homicide cases that are unsolved? Look, the reason why a missing persons case is not solved after years, or the reason why a homicide case, the reason why you have a cold case to begin with, is because there was something at stake at the time that the community didn't want to lose. For example, if you have this girl, 19 years old, a teenager, just completed high school, about to go to college, and she goes missing, and 20 years later, a detective, a cold case detective, gets an anonymous tip that she was likely killed by a swim teacher there in the village where she grew up, and this swimming teacher, he was known at the time to have indecent activities with young girls. Then you may ask yourself, you say you're the detective, if this man was known to be that he was convicted sex offender. First of all, why was he working as a swimming teacher over there? If he was convicted sex offender, that's one thing that's very, very off. And secondly, why didn't anyone make this connection before? And here's the thing: people made the connection. People were aware of it. But here's the thing: that sex offender knew something about the local mayor. He had some thing on the local mayor. He had some political scandal that would shock the whole community. So that's why the mayor or the police don't bother with this sex offender over there. As long as he behaves, leave him alone. And that's when a sex offender committed a crime again, in this case killing that 19-year-old. The mayor didn't want it to come out, but also the police officers back then realized, okay, if this comes out, there's going to be a lot of distrust in the community, and this community may not heal again. So everyone agreed, they were all in on it, to let the case go cold, and after several years, other people will pick it up and come with a conclusion. So the reason why the case was not solved was because the local authorities didn't want it to be solved. Because they didn't want to see the community torn apart by a loss of trust, because this local mayor was seen as a symbol of dignity and honor. So this symbol of dignity and honor is what motivates the youth to behave properly. So if this man would go down, the youth would go astray and things would escalate and turn very ugly. So the stability of the community was at stake. That's why they sacrificed the resolution, the answers for the relatives of the victim, so that the community will remain stable. Any cold case out there that you'll find, when you go to the root of it, you'll see that there was something at stake. The community was about to collapse, or the community was about to be embarrassed in a very grievous way, and that's why this case was decided to remain open. And sometimes even the public knows very well what happened, but they decide, no, we're not going to talk about it, because the moment we admit this, then we also need to admit our neglect. Why didn't we intervene? And when we have children, we need to explain to our children that we were cowards, and then we're going to lose a good bond with our children. So if we admit this, it's going to have long-term ramifications and the long-term implications that we won't be able to handle. So we don't talk about this. So how do you solve a cold case? You ask yourself, what was at stake? Because the moment you see what was at stake in the community back then you'll figure out who had a vested interest in what was at stake, and who was considered a leading figure in what was at stake, and then you will figure out, they're the ones involved, and this is what happened. Very simple. But here's the thing, cold cases are not meant to be solved. Because the moment they're solved, it's going to lead to other problems that people don't want to face. Or it may lead to other conflicts that will escalate. And once those conflicts escalate, what are people going to do? So this often happens, that things are covered up just to spare the community. And in some cases, it is wise. In other cases, it's enabling. But in any case, you realize that a cold case is just a political policy to prevent embarrassment and the collapse of a community. That's what it comes down to. Well, if worldlings would face themselves and look for solutions, they wouldn't be necessary. But worldlings want to flee, as you know. And when they can't escape, they'll escalate. So they'll prevent an escalation in mass, to prevent riots, to prevent people turning into raging wolves, going around stabbing and killing folks out of fright. Cold cases are used to calm the masses down. That's the truth behind cold cases. So whatever cold case there is, check the victim and check what was at stake. Just check what was at stake, and you'll figure out very quickly what happened. And most cold cases are blood sacrificed in disguise. The community was upset, and the community wanted relief, and they endangered an individual, they enabled dangerous people, and bad stuff happened, and now they have their ease, and they don't want to look back. I've made a whole live stream about cold cases. Watch it. So how do you solve a cold case? Check what was at stake. Begin with that. Be at peace.